Listen, the big sporting events keep coming at us. England are into the quarterfinals of the Women's Euros. They play Sweden tomorrow. It's an open It's live on talkSPORT, of course. It's an open training session today. Let's see what they're doing and how the lie of the land is unfolding as England head towards what they hope will be the retention of their trophy. Joining us now from the open training session, Courtney Sweetman-Kirk. Good morning, Courtney.
Yeah, good morning both. How are you?
Very, very good indeed. Open training session, Courtney, that usually means a few rondos. Is that what we're seeing now?
We are actually, we're going into a bit of a passing pattern rather. We normally get the first 15 minutes of training, so we get the warm-ups going into the passing patterns, and then sort of the main bulk of the session aren't for our eyes, just in case we leak any secrets. Okay,
so through to the quarter-final. I think it's fair to say two very different Englands. The rather stodgy performance against France, and then latterly looking back to their very best form. Hopefully that's what we're going to see against Sweden.
Yeah, and we're going to need to see that type of performance against Sweden, because they're a very, very good side in terms of, you see, very close to England in the world rankings, and I think pose a different threat to any other side we've played so far in terms of, you know, their stature. They've got a tall side, they're strong, they're combative, so especially from set pieces, I think they're going to cause us a little bit of an issue if we're not on top form. And also that sort of forward line, they've got really quick players, love to play on the counter-attack, and we saw, you know, in the first game of France that caused us a little bit of a problem. I know we've remedied that in the last two games, but yeah, Sweden's going to be a really tough game.
Courtney, have your apprehensions? I thought you spoke really well last week. You were on the show with us, and you were very to the point and very open about your reservations about England's performance. Obviously, they've bashed up the Dutch and they've gone on and dealt with the Welsh that we all thought they would do. Have the apprehensions that you were speaking of last week, have they been washed away, or do you still think that England have some significant challenges to overcome in and of themselves?
Yeah, what I would say is I think the apprehensions have certainly lessened, because the level of performance I've seen against the Netherlands and against Wales, and for me what really worried me in that France game was the energy, the lack of energy that I felt was in the game, but that certainly changed. But as we get now to a latter stage of the tournament, it always gets tough. As I say, Sweden are a really tough side. You know, you look at the semi-finals and you probably think on paper, you know, whoever we play we should win that, but again, if we're expecting probably Spain in the final, if we get that far, a really tough team. So the apprehensions have lessened in a sense of the level of performance, but we know now getting into the knockout stage of a tournament, there's never an easy game. But if England are on top form, then they're one of the best teams in the world. There's no doubt about that.
Courtney, it's interesting you should say that, because I would expect nobody was talking about Italy or Norway before the tournament started, yet they are the winner of that tie will be the ones that England take on in the semi-final. So I know the manager would hate me saying this, but this is almost the biggest game they'll have to play before they get to the final. But that brings its own pressure. This is almost a semi-final bringing against Sweden.
Yeah, it is, and we look at, as I say, we look at it on paper, and you look at Italy, Norway, and you think, you know, if we're on top form, then we're more than capable of beating those sides. But, you know, you never know what happens. It only takes one mistake. I think we saw it in the Sweden-Germany game, the last group stage, where a mistake, there's a sending off, and that probably completely changes the complexion of the game. So, look, at this stage of a tournament, it's never easy, but I always go back to, you know, if England play well, if they are playing on top form, then they can beat any team in the world. Yes, Spain would obviously be a tough test, but we've seen we beat them earlier in the year in the Nations League, so it's always tough at this stage of the tournament. And I think you're right, you don't want to sort of be looking forward and looking ahead too much. I think that's something that, you know, that is in the media do, but in camp they will be solely focused on the next game, Sweden, getting through that, and then obviously if they get to the semi-finals, then focus on Italy or Norway, whoever it may be.
Courtney, I'll get more about who's out of training there and who's not training in 1 second, but we want to hear about from the England captain, Leah Williamson, and she has been talking and backing up Courtney in the idea that Sweden are a really, really difficult side.
Yeah, we spoke the history, or Sweden's previous results at tournaments are incredible. They're relentless when it comes to tournament football. So yeah, we've been looking, and they're just a very organised team. They work hard. Obviously some familiar faces, we know their characteristics, so it will be a tough game.
Yeah, Leah not giving away too much there. Courtney, what part of the fun of going to open training sessions is seeing who's fully involved, who is doing little laps around the edge of the pitch with one of the trainers, and who is not there at all, who's got their flip-flops back in the dressing room. England got the full squad out?
They've only got 22 out. Unfortunately, Jess Park has come down with a migraine, so she's expected to be fine for tomorrow. But I imagine at the moment she's sort of in a dark room, taking some painkillers, hopefully having a bit of sleep. I actually interviewed Jess Park yesterday, so I'm hoping it's nothing to do with me, and I've not talked her into a migraine. But no, they're expecting her to be fine tomorrow. But everyone else out on the pitch, full training, no sort of, as you say, there's no player off to the side doing a separate training session. Everyone else is at full fitness.
Okay, which takes us to the game tomorrow. England will have restored their confidence after that poor start against France. And as Leah was saying, they know the Swedish players inside out. Some of them play, of course, in England, and they've watched them and played against them regularly over the years. How will England approach the game? Personally, you mentioned the energy levels. England should probably go for this Swedish team, will they?
Yeah, they have to, and I think all the way throughout the tournament, Serena Wiegman, the Lionesses manager, has been sort of very importantly stating it's about England, it's about our game plan, it's about if we focus on our game plan and execute it in the right way, then we believe that we will do enough to win games. And she was very sure of saying after the France game that we didn't execute that game plan in the way that we should have. So, yeah, they're going to go for Sweden, as you mentioned. Obviously, the sides know each other well, sort of Leah Williamson and Stina Blackstenius especially, obviously teammates. There's Ritten Kanneryd in there that plays for Chelsea, Bjorn that plays for Chelsea as well. So there's a lot of players, well-known WSL players in that side. But yeah, they've got to go for it, England. They've got to believe in themselves, and in terms of that high press, that energy has been the focal point of the last two games, winning the ball high up the pitch and obviously getting into positions early where they're either scoring goals or winning penalties, and putting teams under pressure. And I expect nothing different from the Lionesses tomorrow.
Listen, thank you very much indeed. That's the very latest from Courtney Sweetman-Kirk there, live at the England training ground. The game against France is now a distant memory, Simon. I was going to say, and as the Italian team has proved over the years, you don't have to start these tournaments well, but they don't get to the tournaments anymore.
Absolutely right.
So
yeah.
I can't. That's now a cliche from the past.
But there was so much background noise going into this tournament, wasn't there? The results weren't great leading into it. Obviously, they beat the Jamaicans 7-0, which gave everybody a little bit of encouragement.
Several leading players decided to, all of which would have set alarm bells off. Of course, it did.
Yeah, but and then a slightly tepid performance that got them smashed by the French after the first 20 minutes where they were quite good.
Could have been the best thing for them. That was a wake-up call.
Liven them up. And they should. I mean, the Welsh were always a gimme with respect.
And the Welsh women were learning the game at tournament level. And we spoke to Umugarav on Sunday on Trans Europe Express, and she was saying the Welsh team will, believe it or not, will benefit from that drubbing. They'll see the levels that they've got to head for. Now, you don't want that 6 games in a row.
Yeah,
but once in a while.
It's like saying San Marino have been benefited from getting beaten forever, haven't they? It's not benefited from that much, is it?
No, what's happened is that the Nations League, though, has given them international opportunities against teams more at their level, and they are improving as a result.
Difficult to get worse, though, wouldn't it, to be honest?
Yeah, or is it that teams like England are coming back to the pack? Who knows?